Are you a motherless daughter? What if we told you we have 20 years worth of truth treasures, pearls of wisdom, and diamonds of hope to help you with your mother loss? We do, and we share all things mother loss on Nurturing Words, Voices of Experience, a podcast by the Motherless Daughters Ministry. Give yourself some self-care and listen as we discuss grief, regret, anger, redemption, closure, and so much more.
Hello, I'm Gladys Bell, your host. Today we're going to talk about rest. I'm sure I'm not the only one to struggle in this area. There is an overload in our culture of information coming at us and an endless list of things to do. But rest is important for our mental and physical health. Let's listen to one of our blog writers, Chris, as she shares what she's learned about rest in her life. Then, before we leave you, we will hear reflections from our podcast administrator, Sarah Lynn Wells.
I am so tired. I can understand why I'm exhausted. My 4 kids, the fact that I haven't had more than a handful of uninterrupted nights of sleep in 12 years, the daily mothering of them, and the 4 additional ones I care for each weekday. Then there's the husband I adore and never have enough time or energy for, the aging parents I want to support, and the friendships I enjoy that also take time and energy. Plus the yellow lab who eats our patio furniture when she doesn't get enough attention. Just thinking of the energy it takes to love others makes me want to escape on a relaxing vacation. I'm just so tired. I do have opportunities for rest, though. My hubby and I took a 4-day weekend and spent it relaxing at a luxury cabin that was beautifully isolated from everyone else and all the non-nature distractions of our world. I rested the first night and the first full day, and then I didn't. When I awoke on the 3rd day, I felt rested enough to attack my to-do list, create a photo book as a gift for a friend, write 2 new chapters for my novel, update my planner with next week's family activity schedule. I got it all done, too. With the distance of 5 weeks, I think, really? This is how I spent my 3rd and 4th days of vacation? I can see that I missed out on a wonderful opportunity for rest. But I didn't see it at the time. And I'm not sure I'd have been able to take advantage of that opportunity if I had seen it. I'm a doer, and when I run out of energy, I become a pusher. I mental game it through my unending list of what I need to do until I collapse in tears or anger. Most nights I'm available to avoid the tears or anger by a glass or 2 of wine and a side of chocolate. But this is not rest. I'm sure it's also not fun for those who live with me. And this is not the life my God intended for me. It makes me sad to realize the difference between my daily living and His plan for me. I know it must break my Father's heart. I just read this in Deuteronomy 3:12 this morning. Let the beloved of the Lord rest secure in Him, for He shields him all day long, and the one the Lord loves rests between His shoulders. As soon as I read those words, I knew what God was telling me. Come here, rest your head right here on my chest. Let me put my strong arms around you while you just rest your head a while. The image immediately brought tears to my eyes because I want that so much. We were all created to desire that from Him. I picture the little children I hold in my lap facing me so they can rest their heads against my chest while I hug and rock them. I picture my 4 growing up kids whose head I pull to me when I reassure them in their insecure moments. Here is my Father wanting to do exactly the same for me, which tells me He is my true daddy who loves me with a perfect daddy's love. He thinks of me and desires relationship time with me. I think I'm all grown up now and can do it on my own, which is really just exposing my immaturity to Him. He will be waiting for me with open arms every time I turn back to Him for that hug, that reassurance. If I want to make this a daily thing instead of a only when I'm so tired I can't stand on my own thing, then I need to make it a daily practice to crawl into His lap, rest my head against Him, recognizing Him, talking to Him, listening to Him, simply being with Him. This is rest, letting go and letting Him.
We're going to take a short break to tell you about a resource, and then we'll get right back to the podcast.
Mother loss is a lifelong grief journey. The scars go deep and the pain is relentless. It affects every aspect of a woman's being, regardless of age of loss or how the loss occurred. The hole is deep and filled with many emotions. You are invited to our online support community with the Motherless Daughters Ministry online support groups, focusing on the journey and the difficult obstacles that get in the way of healing. To learn more about our weekly support group offerings, visit us online at motherlessdaughtersministry.com.
Now, before we go, let's hear some reflections from our podcast administrator, Sarah Lynn Wells. Thank you, Chris, for sharing your lessons learned about rest. I love the idea of making this a daily practice, not just something that happens when you are about to break down. Our culture has a major exhaustion problem. Studies have shown an alarming number of American adults who feel overexerted, exhausted, unfocused, and lacking energy. So often, our solution is to just keep pushing ourselves or downing caffeine to try and keep going. We so often celebrate working hard and getting more and more done. It's great to have a good work ethic, but it is also important to balance our lives and learn to set boundaries and rest. We find it to be a good thing to keep striving and trying harder, but we need to learn to also let go and allow ourselves to be restored. Rest is a biblical concept. I looked it up, and the word rest is mentioned 275 times in the King James Bible. God rested on the seventh day of creation. There are many stories in the New Testament that include details of Jesus resting, especially between big moments in his ministry. Even the command to keep the Sabbath is about rest and restoration. Even if rest isn't celebrated or prioritized in our culture, it's clear God finds it important. He realizes that rest is essential for our mental, physical, and spiritual health. There's a story in 1 Kings about Elijah. He was a prophet of God who had shown great faith and courage in many instances and seen God's provision. But he hit a point of exhaustion and discouragement in 1 Kings 19. The chapter starts with his fear. It says, quote, King Ahab told Jezebel everything that Elijah did, and how Elijah had killed all the prophets of Baal with a sword. So Jezebel sent a messenger to Elijah and said, I swear that by this time tomorrow you will be just as dead as those prophets. If I don't succeed, may the gods do the same or worse to me. When Elijah heard this, he was afraid, so he ran away to save his life. He took his servant with him, and they went to Beersheba in Judah. Then Elijah left his servant in Beersheba and walked for a whole day into the desert. Then he sat down under a bush and asked to die. He said, "I have had enough, Lord. Take my life. I am no better than my ancestors." Then Elijah lay down under the bush and went to sleep. An angel came to him and touched him. The angel said, "Get up and eat." Elijah looked around, and by his head there was a cake that had been baked over coals and a jar of water. He ate and drank and then went back to sleep. Later the Lord's angel came to him again, touched him, and said, "Get up and eat. If you don't, you will not be strong enough to make the long trip." So Elijah got up, he ate and drank and felt strong. Then Elijah walked for 40 days and nights to Mount Oreb, the Mount of God. There Elijah went into a cave and spent the night. Then the Lord said to him, "Elijah, why are you here?" Elijah answered, "Lord God, all-powerful, I have always served you the best I can. But the Israelites have broken their agreement with you. They destroyed your altars and killed your prophets. I am the only prophet left alive, and now they are trying to kill me." Then the Lord said to Elijah, "Go, stand in front of me on the mountain. I, the Lord, will pass by you." Then a very strong wind blew. The wind caused the mountains to break apart. It broke the large rocks in front of the Lord. But that wind was not the Lord. After that wind, there was an earthquake. But that earthquake was not the Lord. After the earthquake, there was a fire. But that fire was not the Lord. After the fire, there was a quiet, gentle voice. Unquote. What an encouraging story about rest. Hopefully, none of us can relate to the circumstances Elijah was in, being fearful for his life. But we can all relate to periods of fear, discouragement, anxiety. What was God's response? Was it to tell Elijah to work harder? No, it was to rest, eat something, and find restoration. And when Elijah desperately needed to hear from God and feel close, he came in the still, small voice. God doesn't need us to keep striving and pushing ourselves. We can be at our healthiest when we rest, both physically and resting in God's promises and presence.
Thank you for joining us here at Motherless Daughters Ministry. If you need more nurturing words, we encourage you to have a listen to other episodes of this podcast. Don't forget to hit the subscribe or follow button so you can join us again next time.